Trying to set up the live on YouTube. Okay, there we go. Okay, now we're live. Okay, great. Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about some awesome follow-ups from yesterday's video, part 2 of part 5. So there's going to be a 5-part campaign where we're going to dig deep into what it takes to be to help your clients out with vagus nerve specific issues, right? How to get your clients like massive transformational care using the insights of the vagus nerve. That's what we're going to be teaching throughout this whole 5 days. Today, we're going to be talking about designing protocols. How do you look at designing an actual protocol to stimulate the vagus nerve that you can implement in a 3-month window for a client? So we're going to talk about that today. And then tomorrow, we're going to talk about actually like the sales process. Like how do you get someone to be convinced to go through with that? Because it takes a little bit of convincing. Hey, we're going to stimulate your vagus nerve. What is a vagus nerve? How do you talk about that? We're going to talk about that tomorrow. But before we get started, we're going to do the simultaneous squeeze. So the simultaneous squeeze is going to be a quick breathing in and a quick breathing out practice. Breathing in, squeezing, holding, squeezing, and then exhale. Okay, so ready? 3, 2, 1. Breathe in for 5 seconds. Fill in your lungs completely, and then you're going to take a sip of air at the very top. All the way in. Now hold that air in and then squeeze like you're blowing out a balloon, but close your lips all the way, but keep on activating those muscles as if you're trying to blow out that air, but it can't go anywhere. Like the balloon is full. And then slowly, fully exhale all of that air out of your body as we go. Wow. Okay. I don't know if you guys can tell, but that was a really good one for me. That felt freaking amazing. By the way, I was like, whoa, I had time dilation effects from just that effect, from that practice. Let me know in the chat if you guys got a good effect. Like, yeah, that was cool or whatever. Or you can just go, so good. Whatever you want to say. So good. So let's crack into it. So for today, what we want to do is make sure that we address especially questions of how does a protocol work, right? Charlene with a, nice, refreshing, good. So in terms of today, we're going to look at kind of, Marwan, yes, feels good. Excellent. Awesome. I love that you're all getting effects because you're all, again, stimulating your vagus nerve already. So it does help. It definitely does help. If you're like, why isn't that working? It might not just be technique. It might just be you're not stimulating your vagus nerve in other ways, and your vagus nerve just has no idea what to do. So that could be a part of it. Many people in the chat are actually clients of mine, and I don't tell them to be here. They're not paid to type in the chat. I just invite them to, and they do, and it's awesome. Happy customers. Let's say that. So let's see. So in terms of today's specific topics, we're looking at designing protocols. So just as a quick recap, I won't go into too much length. Yesterday, we talked about the market opportunities around the vagus nerve. How many millions, 20 million humans in the United States boundaries alone are actively experiencing some form of a vagus nerve issue. They're actively looking for treatment right now. So that means 1 out of 16 people that you encounter on average is going to be actively searching for a solution to a vagus nerve issue. The market size is close to $360 billion per year spent on vagus nerve specific downstream issues. Is pretty substantial. Diabetes represents about $140 billion for reference. So people spend less on diabetes than they spend on vagus nerve issues. And then people spend about 90 billion with a B per year on searching for, specific fixes for heart failure, for ischemic heart disease, let's say. So there's a lot of money going around trying to solve issues. These are, of course, this includes the medications, the treatments, the facility costs. This is a full-on synopsis. So not all that money is available to anybody, just walking around on the street. A lot of that goes through insurance and that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of money, a hefty amount of money spent on dealing with vagus nerve specific related issues. So there's never been a better time in the world right now than to identify a potential strategy to help your active current clients with vagus nerve stimulation, or for some practitioners who want to, branch out a little bit or branch in a little bit into the vagus nerve with stimulation. So we won't talk at length about all the types of options for vagus nerve stimulation in terms of it from a technology standpoint. But what we will talk about is the protocols that you would use. So let's say that, that's kind of the synopsis. Now let's talk about what the practical implementation might look like. So let's say you're a practitioner. Typically, I don't encourage practitioners to do hourly work, because I believe that the incentives around hourly work, where you get paid per hour, sets an incentive where, think of it from a patient perspective. How would a patient have certainty that if they're having to pay you hourly, that they're ever going to give you the full meal deal solution? Because if they fix you, then you're not going to become a customer anymore, right? So that is a big issue. So I don't want you to think in terms of how do I do hour to hour work as a practitioner. I want you to think in terms of how could I do like a package deal with clients to help them in their care. And I want you to think in terms of the cycle of 3 to 4 months. 3 to 4 months is about the right amount of time that it will take for continuous habitual stimulation of the vagus nerve, for that vagus nerve to develop innate structural integrity and to prime it so that it's easy to activate in the future. Meaning, again, if you're trying to rehabilitate muscles in your body, you need to do about 3 months of consistent exercise in order for those muscles to stay strong past the treatment rehabilitation period. So you can go back to normal life without risking tripping and falling and re-injuring yourself. So 3 months of intensive, I'm not going to say it's not intensive, but continuous VNS, where there's like accountability and checking in and, doing some of these things. Like, is there a good protocol for them to follow on a daily basis? You need to design that and think of your package as a 3-month thing. I wouldn't go any less than 3 months, because really the real magic does start at day 90. There's something about, again, the time that it takes the average neuron to grow that much, because we talk about vagus nerve stimulation and repair. It can take a good 90 days for a neuron to really bridge a gap completely and fix itself and make it a strong connection. So don't think of designing anything vagus nerve stimulation related as anything less than 3 months. You need to look at a 3-month cycle, 3-month window. That's 12 weeks. Or if it's 4 months, that's 16 weeks. So I personally operate more in a 4-month cycle with clients. Of course, you can get immediate benefits from vagus nerve stimulation. That's true. However, you don't want to set expectations that every day from day one is going to be like, whoa, a huge, sky high thing has happened with my vagus nerve. Although that's possible depending on the client. I mean, I certainly had clients who start to hit this kind of ramping area, and they just flow through the plateaus really easily. But the reason they're able to do that is because of some other specializations we do with our coaching. It's not, trust me, it's not just sitting around stimulating your vagus nerve all day that gets them those results. There's some very specific things you have to include if you want to see that type of a ramp up. So it requires a bit more of a specialization, but it's doable. It's definitely possible. So, all right, so you want a 3 to 4 month time window. You want to have each client have their own vagus nerve stimulation device at home. This is very important. You do not want to become the gatekeeper for that person's medicine. And vagus nerve stimulation is basically a form of digital medicine. It's gonna be something that they need to have on hand that is rechargeable or plugs into the wall or something like that. Having a patient with a physical handheld stimulator at home is a prerequisite for any of this stuff to work, because you don't want to create that anxiety in a client that unless they come to see you, that they're going to not get their care. So I would not recommend that you think of well, if I keep the VNS device in my office, then I'll make my clients have to come to me. I don't recommend that way of thinking about this. You may disagree. You may think, well, oh, Sterling, lucrative. It's so lucrative. You make the client need to come back all the time. And I just don't agree with that. Given that the vagus nerve can regulate stress, that's something that a patient should have on hand at home all the time, right? So agreed. Good. Cool. Good. Hey, good to see you, Callie. So that's the first part. We were looking at a 3 to 4 month cycle of care and support. You can either meet with the clients weekly if you're starting, or monthly if you're more advanced and more experienced. I think that there should be some continual check-ins, 30-minute check-ins every couple weeks. That's probably about ideal. You don't want to be doing, you really don't want to be doing 3 hours of check-ins with clients, even in a month, because there's just too much to cover. If you think that 3 hours is going to be high ROI, other than, again, is 3 hours spent with a client going to make them feel really connected with you and that kind of stuff? Yeah, of course. And they might resubscribe for longer coaching after that first 4 months. But the proof should be in the pudding of the vagus nerve stimulation, not just that you spent 3 hours with them in a month. That's my personal opinion. And I've done both. I've seen and done both. I had a trauma therapist friend who would spend 3 hours per week with clients, and they were getting good results. They were happy, but time-wise, it was just you can't scale a business very easily if you're doing 3 hours per week Zoom meetings with clients. So not a great idea. So each client needs to have their own VNS device. Then in terms of designing the protocol, here's what the protocol will look like. So with the VNS device, on average, you're going to have them use the device 2 times per day. That means once in the morning and then once in the evening before bed. They can optionally do vagus nerve stimulation once they wake up. If they're the kind of person who wakes up, if you wake up at 2 a.m. and you need to go back to bed, best thing to do, stimulate your vagus nerve, because it's going to help you relax and go back to sleep. So from a patient perspective, there's lots of different things you can encourage them to do in terms of a protocol for using said VNS device throughout the day. But you need to make sure, I'll talk about this a little bit later in terms of what's a good mindset as a practitioner to keep with your clients. Are you trying to be a drill sergeant? Are you trying to keep them accountable? Or are you trying to create low cost conditions for them to succeed? You can probably tell what I believe you probably should be doing in that, which is, creating very low barrier conditions for them to feel like they can celebrate that they showed up for stimulating their vagus nerve. Taking it the opposite way, it's, we're not running a military operation here. It's not a drill sergeant kind of thing. You need to be nice and appropriate with your clients and just say hey, did you at least move your body into the part of your house where your vagus nerve stimulator is, and at least maybe turn it on, place it, and then take it off. Maybe you didn't do it fully that night because you just didn't feel like it. The fact of the matter is, what should be celebrated is that you went and physically picked up the device, because that does so much more in your brain around habits. Of your brain looks back on habits and past things that you've done throughout the day as a little mini movie. So if you can move your brain like you're making a movie, again, this is like film school stuff from UC Berkeley when I snuck into the department. But again, your brain replays micro movies. So if you can have that client replay that micro movie that has them see their hand going and touching the device and then picking it up and putting it on their neck to stimulate their vagus nerve, even if they aren't able to do it, their brain still believes that they had that successful, consistent habit around that usage. It'd be the same thing like if you're having a weight loss client and the first thing that they do in their weight loss journey is incorporate going to the gym. I would specifically tell a client in a weight loss capacity. Now, I'm not a big believer in weight loss coaching, but there are a lot of people who do weight loss coaching and they can succeed. The best types of coaches are going to oftentimes tell their clients to get the habits of getting to the gym set. That means put on your shoes, get in the car, drive yourself to the gym, walk into the gym, look around the gym, and then maybe at least touch one of the machines or lift a weight once and then turn around and drive back home. So that you set that expectation around when I put my shoes on, it's like an easy process in and out of the gym. It's like you're greasing the wheels of this process. Your brain will look at back as, well, when I put my shoes on last time, I had this really nice, smooth process of getting to the gym and coming back home. And that oftentimes is a much better way to cement I think a lot of you have probably heard of this. Hopefully, I'm not the first time. So hopefully it's not the very first time you've heard this, but some of the best coaches today will literally tell their clients to just get to the gym, lift one weight or just touch a weight, and then drive back home. Just so they can create, again, the first time you go to the gym, you don't want to do 3 hours because you're probably going to hurt yourself. You don't need to do 20 minutes. The purpose of getting to the gym is that you're consistently getting yourself to the gym, or that you built a gym in your house and you're going onto the back porch where your gym is, and you're at least doing something around that practice. Maybe it's the iron, maybe it's whatever. Sorry, Callie, that's too bad, but replay will be available, of course. Maybe you want to try it on, let me do this. I'm just going to, for the sake of Callie, if she's still here, I'm going to put the link to the YouTube here. So that maybe you can watch it on YouTube, which might have a bit of a better, who knows. Here, I'll say Callie and then paste the YouTube. Maybe you would be able to watch it there and it would be better. So anyway, getting back onto the video. So when it comes to stimulating the vagus nerve, each client needs to get that expectation set from the very beginning, that it's not about heroic doses of vagus nerve stimulation every day from day one. Not at all. That is a bad place to start your clients. That's going to make your neurotic clients really neurotic, and it's really going to bite you in the ass. So I would highly recommend that you take a systems perspective here and just drop any goals with any of this. Maybe this could be a whole video on, like, maybe we'll do this more on day 5. We'll talk about, like, when your clients need that more intensive help, what are the kinds of things you're typically going to tell them? And this applies to all coaching. So if you're like, oh my God, Sterling has to have strategies on coaching people, it's not perfect 100% of the time, and that there's some clients who can be neurotic because they've been sick and damaged from benzodiazepines for 10 years, and they're really looking for results fast, and you need to kind of reset expectations a little bit with the time that it could take for a chronic illness. Yeah, that can happen. That can definitely happen. That's something you learn from experience. So if you're like, I don't have to do that, I'd say maybe you haven't been coaching for 6 years. I don't know, but whatever. So in terms of designing a full protocol, first thing, 3 to 4 months, needs to involve a vagus nerve stimulator that the client has at home, not in your office. Don't be the person who gatekeeps vagus nerve stimulation for your clients. It's not a good idea. It's going to ramp up stress, and it's going to create a sense of kind of resentment a little bit for them. So don't do that. Then additionally, for their best use of the device, you need to implement a protocol where they use the device once or twice per day. Usually once in the morning for about 2 minutes. Now, I have a specific protocol that I use, and it's device specific. So I do use a device in my program with our clients that gets shipped to them, and it's a 4-month program. So I'm speaking to you guys from like real practical experience. I've done 3-month versions of my program and 4-month versions of my program. I find 4 months is ideal. It's gives us time to cover some of those additional concepts that really amplify vagus nerve results, and we'll talk about that here today too. And how do you design a protocol for a specific type of condition too? So we had a question about gastroparesis yesterday. I want to talk about what does designing a non-generalized vagus nerve stimulation protocol look like for a specific indication, and I'll talk you through how to design that pretty well today. So yeah, 3 to 4 months, the vagus nerve stimulation device has to be in that client's hands. I include a guarantee that if their device breaks, if they drop it, if their dog eats it, if their child yanks it out of the wall and it breaks a cable or whatever, anything that happens, I will replace it free of charge and ship it to them rapidly that week. So they have no stress around the vagus nerve stimulation device. I think that should be a given as well. So however you can work into, potentially pricing that into your service potentially. Of course, I don't charge them extra if they need the replacement device. I just, no questions asked. I'm like, message me, boom, new device is in the mail, you're set. So I think that a lot of those things just really go towards better peace of mind for clients. So think of ways that you can make the experience really good. Again, we're designing what does a real actionable protocol look like from a bigger picture. For most practitioners, what I've shared here is probably going to be potentially the ground level truth for what it could really look like in your business to incorporate vagus nerve stimulation with whichever device you're trying to use. And you gotta make sure you have some room for doing it properly. So anyway, as far as that is concerned, the 2 times per day that they stimulate their vagus nerve, they want to do it 2 minutes each about. Now, like I said, I do my own protocol with my own device, but generally speaking, I'm not going to be giving away all my secret protocol data and numbers, but we're looking at around 2 minutes, 2 times per day on average. I try to encourage people at the beginning, once per day, right before bed for a few minutes, and that's it. Because if you stimulate your vagus nerve in the first week in the daytime, it can make you very relaxed and tired. So you'll want to sleep. It's a reason it's called the rest and digest nerve. That was not by accident. So you will rest. And oftentimes I don't find that that's optimal. I want to make sure that clients are wanting to sleep deeply at bedtime, because consistent bedtimes, consistent sleep and wake times are really important for good overall health systems. You don't want a client like, oh yeah, today I went to bed at 3:00 and then I woke up at 5 and then I went to bed at midnight and then woke up at 10 a.m. You don't want that. That's not good for clients. So when they start with vagus nerve stimulation, I encourage you to just have them stimulate right before bed, 15 minutes about before bed. That's it. So good. What else do you need to know in terms of designing a protocol? Of course, how often you check in with them is up to you. I would say, so here's the thing. There's a difference between doing this to make a lot of money, and then there's another thing is to do this to actually tangibly help clients through what could be some difficult chronic health issues. And so I'm super committed to that second part, which is helping clients that come into the arena of the vagus nerve get everything that they hoped and more. So I really need to make sure that you all watching understand that this isn't about making a gang load of money. We're not trying to make you $1 million bajillion dollars, right, by mass selling vagus nerve stimulation devices. And the reason that I'm doing this type of a call like this, where I'm speaking to practitioners and not just saying, here, buy this, buy this, buy this, is because I think that in the journey, practitioners best know how to micro help their clients so they can get better results faster. And that's the name of the game here, is fast results, life-changing, transformational results with vagus nerve stimulation. That for me is a super critical criteria for this. Now, another thing is, as well as for the practitioner, is to humble yourself a little bit here. If you're going to incorporate vagus nerve stimulation, you're going to learn a lot really fast about how vagus nerve stimulation actually tangibly has an effect on your clients. So you need to become a sponge, so to speak, a learner in terms of, okay, I mean, so here's what I would say. For some of you, you might be like, wow, this seems incredibly promising, but I could see that once implementation starts, that I might encounter some questions about what the vagus nerve stimulation is actually doing so I can speak to the clients better. That would take that, because there are so many different types of conditions, that it would take days and days and days of discussions and questions and answers to get you answers there. The best way to handle that would be to have, ideally would be to have some kind of a daily powwow with me in a private, probably in a private paid program with me at a low cost, where you can daily show up anytime, sometime in the day on a consistent time. It would always be consistent, maybe like 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, something like middle of the day. So if you have any questions from a client call that just happened, you can directly ask me, hey, I've got this client with gastroparesis. What more specifics could I do for the protocol? Because I'll give you some actual tangible advice here, but definitely something to consider. That is a thing that we are considering offering, is for practitioners to get real hands-on guidance from an expert in a real-time way. Because there's one thing about having a big textbook, which we don't really read, versus like, hey, can I hop on a Zoom call and get this looked at? That I think is more ideal if you're looking to be a vagus nerve stimulation practitioner. So keep that in mind. So anyway, let's talk about what a specific type of protocol might look like. So let's talk gastroparesis. So gastroparesis is a condition where the body basically is not able to go to the restroom. You just don't poop that much. It sucks. It's debilitating. It can lead to toxic megacolon, and it can be fatal if you aren't constantly doing a coffee enema or eating tons of laxatives, lots of magnesium. It's just a condition that it's like a full-time job, basically. You just always feel full. You always feel bloated. It sucks ass, literally and figuratively. Some people have to install, a colonoscopy machine in their house permanently because of gastroparesis, because it just, again, it's that important to be able to have to go to the bathroom. And so the urgency to go to the bathroom is oftentimes deteriorated as well. And the urgency feeling of gastroparesis is a vagus nerve specific signal. So oftentimes if the vagus nerve gets damaged or pinched or decays or, you have axon degeneration, myelin sheath degeneration in cases of like MS, and more generally, alcoholism can lead to demyelination. So you see one of the biggest concerning symptoms that's one of the most deadly symptoms of long-term alcoholism is the development of gastroparesis because of alcohol's ability to strip the myelin of your vagus nerve throughout your neck and your throat and your stomach. Those fibers have to go all the way down to get to your colon. And there is a connection there. So your vagus nerve does connect to your colon. And when you have no urgency to go to the bathroom, typically that's going to be because your vagus nerve is backed up, blocked up, pinched, damaged, etc. And which one of those things can determine the kind of care that's required. But in a lot of cases, stimulating that vagus nerve is going to be the right move for gastroparesis. Certainly, given that you have to try a lot of things for gastroparesis. Vagus nerve stimulation is a hardcore good implementation. So, and here's how I know that. You're like, well, are you just guessing, or is this based on any empirical knowledge? It's 100% based on empirical, repeated knowledge. And I'll tell you how we discovered this. So back in 2019, of our year of the Lord in the United States, Sterling Cooley, me, was already well into 2 years of doing vagus nerve stimulation and repair coaching. I had one client from Norway who had gastroparesis. Every day she had to go to the restroom, do a full coffee enema for about an hour in order to have a bowel movement. She would have to do that 1, 2, or 3 times per day just to get the full meal deal. So not a pretty picture, right? Beautiful heart, beautiful lady, just on all levels. You could tell her spirit was there, but her body was suffering. But she actually was she had a specialization training in alternative medicine. And as some of the training, they talked about the vagus nerve. And she had been trying, breathing, meditation, humming, yoga, gargling, all the kind of mommy blog, here are the 5 ways to stimulate your vagus nerve kind of things. Which, I've certainly been able to, I can write a billion of those. Those are easy as hell to write. Not how do you stimulate your vagus nerve with ultrasound is a whole different kind of blog post. It's much more complex, but is it more effective? Yeah, of course. So this client from Norway was stimulating her vagus nerve in the neck with our tool. We can ship these all over the world too, so that's really good. So she had her own device, was able to use that there at home. Didn't have to come into my office. So if people are watching like, oh, but I'm in like XYZ country, could you possibly help me? Of course. And you can do the same with your clients too. You don't have to be located. Again, think of what it could do for your practitioner business if you're able to, provide an online course that people can use from all over the country. Not just who do you know that you can throw a rock at down your street, right? So this Norway client, actually, because she had this alternative therapy training, had known a little bit more about the anatomy of the vagus nerve than the average initial client. And at that time, our primary protocol was just to stimulate the vagus nerve in the neck, just right here on the neck. And so she said, well, I have my sacrum above my tailbone is impacted significantly, and I need to stimulate that part of the vagus nerve. She had an intuitive feeling to stimulate down there. So she did. And guess what? It worked better than the coffee enema. And her health changed radically after incorporating the vagus nerve stimulation, but down in the sacrum. So that's what the protocol is. It's very simple. It's stimulate closer to the organs that have problems. Now, there's the reason why I love ultrasound so much is because ultrasound can tangibly stimulate vagus nerve fibers anywhere in the body that are even deep organs in the body. Things that are like your spleen, your pancreas, your liver, your stomach, your sacrum and bladder and ovary, hormone regulating vagus fibers, thyroid stuff. Vagus nerve stimulation with ultrasound, bar none, way more effective, especially when you're trying to be like, I'm the kind of coach who can help people with maybe organ-specific challenges of the vagus nerve. Because you can see that certain conditions of the vagus nerve localize themselves to different areas. And that can be, how you design a treatment protocol. So I'll leave it up to your imagination to explore, what if it was type 2 diabetes in the pancreas? Could you stimulate with ultrasound of the vagus fibers down there and put someone into remission? Could you do something like that? And the answer would be, yeah. General Electric and the Feinstein Institutes in New York City are doing this all the time right now in clinic. So they're already doing that. So if you have a lot of clients that are in that category, you could then be a practitioner that does that with clients, which would be pretty cool. So again, I really do believe that this whole vagus nerve stimulation field is a revolution in medicine. It's not pill-based medicine. There's no pharmaceuticals that have to be involved here. There's no dangerous neck manipulation of the vagus nerve in your neck, right? Which is like a chiropractic kind of thing. It's all gentle, smooth stimulation of the vagus nerve. My main recommendations from a practitioner standpoint is to incorporate it from an ultrasound perspective, but ultrasound requires more legalese in order to be able to sell it to a client. So that's another thing that, again, before you pull the trigger on that, that's definitely something you want to be in a program for so you can get the legal paperwork. Otherwise, you will have to probably hire an attorney to go through legal representation of what the device can or cannot do. Otherwise, you put yourself at risk of being sued by a client. So there are some things with ultrasound that you need to be more careful of. And just in general, especially as a coach, when you're dealing with health, you want to make sure, do you have all your legal stuff in order when you're designing a protocol, so that you can help people, in a responsible way that protects you and your business and the client most. So anyway, in terms of, does everything sound pretty clear? We're talking about how do you design a 3-month protocol for a client? You give them an ultrasound device, or you give them some vagus nerve stimulation device. You have to figure out budgeting and pricing and what people are willing to pay and all this kind of stuff and balance all those effects. Again, that's a deeper conversation, but hey, at least to start the initial exploration into this, there, you can go online and start researching this as well, for sure. I think that mainly covers the biggest aspects of this. So look, if we really examine what we've covered so far, on day 1, we covered why people would want, why and how and where there are people who are having vagus nerve issues, how to kind of identify that niche. If you missed that video, you got to go back and watch that. Vagus nerve stimulation and repair, video number 1, part 1 on, practitioner training. That video we talked about who are the specific types of clientele who are actively seeking this help, right? 1 out of 16. Who are those 1 out of 16? So if you missed that video, you got to go back and watch that, because I can't rehash. I would spend an hour rehashing every video, main points every day. So you got to go watch that one. But specifically, also, if you do want to go back and rewatch stuff, go to the YouTube link and subscribe to the YouTube. I'll put that here in the chat one more time so you have that. But click on that and subscribe to the Vagus Nerve Stimulation and Repair podcast. That way, you'll be able to see these videos on YouTube, and they'll oftentimes play, as a replay. And you won't have that question of, oh my God, where was the video from yesterday? They're all there listed on the YouTube page, really clearly under the podcast live section. So I would highly recommend that. So day number 1, we identified who is out there. What kind of money are they paying? So they're paying a lot of money. This is clearly an issue. that's in need of resolution. And I don't believe that more devices alone are going to fix this. This is going to require practitioners throwing and heaving their bodies on the pile of this massive health epidemic. So that's in large part why I want to do these videos, is to resource some other practitioners to say, hey guys, like, let's connect. Like, we are the beacons of health for other people to look up to. So I think we should respect that role that we have and share some knowledge and make sure that we do this right. And not, again, don't fuck it up. That's pretty important. I'd say the biggest MO that I would take away from this for you is don't fuck this up for the rest of us. Do this right. It's pretty darn important. What's at stake is pretty important, because I don't believe that there's going to be some magical drug that's going to come out that's going to do anything close to what vagus nerve stimulation as a technology, as an intervention, as a protocol can do for a client. I just don't believe that there's going to be a drug that can do it. But with technology, it's like, could I hand a golf club to a random person and say, hey, go hit a golf ball? Yeah, but are they going to be able to hit that golf ball repeatedly, consistently, well enough to be able to get points on the scoreboard? No way. But coaching them, if it were Tiger Woods handing you a golf club and saying, hey, let's work on your form, let's take this easy, let's take this consistently, let's do this right, let's show up consistently every day to learn how to swing a golf club, that client, that person being coached, is going to be able to hit holes in ones in no time, okay? And at least if they aren't hitting holes in ones, we understand they're going to move in the direction of being a really good golf player, versus, hey, here's the golf club that Tiger Woods used. Good luck. It costs only $199.99, right? Owning Tiger Woods golf club does not make you Tiger Woods. Being coached by Tiger Woods with his golf club, or even a non-Tiger Woods golf club, is the secret to getting good. And trust me, your vagus nerve is pretty darn important. If you don't mind my southern influence, I'm not from the South. I'm from Southern Oregon, though. And so we have half and half city folks, half ranch folks, right? And so sometimes I like to use the word darn. And I would tell you that the vagus nerve is pretty darn important. Golfing, people spend more money on golf training than they do on vagus nerve training. And relatively life or death scenario, what's going to be more valuable? I'm good at golfing, or I have my vagus nerve locked down. Way more better options to have a strong vagus nerve versus being a good golfer. And yet again, because there aren't enough practitioners, people are having to go buy the golf club of Tiger Woods, and there aren't enough Tiger Woods out there to be able to get the kinds of results that I'm able to get. And yeah, I am comparing myself to Tiger Woods because I don't see any other practitioners getting the kinds of results I get with clients. So if you want to get those kinds of results, you need to switch out of the hour-to-hour incentive model with your clients and shift into a 3 to 4 month program cycle. Now, as I mentioned yesterday, how do you make sure that when a client gets better, that they don't say, okay, great, sayonara? How do you design your programs so that that person wants to stick around with you for more degrees of training? And I think that's another thing that I do that is, I think, really fun. I really do enjoy it. So what I do is I've learned it, it's from a coach of mine, it's called the Harvard method. And it's where you design introductory and ascension programs. So you start off by getting people in at a low cost, at a comfortable rate, where they think, wow, I'm really getting like such incredible service, such incredible results. I can't believe that I was able to get into a program like this for this cost. So that's the price point that you want to find them. That may be around $900 to $1,500 about for something like that. And we'll talk about, more sales and money tomorrow, but just to give you a sense here. That's what I consider in my work phase 1. And so there's kind of different options, different tiers, different payment plans that people can use in that thing. They can pay month to month. You want to get people in a comfortable level. You're trying to help people. It's not like a money racket. You're not trying to do the Dr. Amen clinics where they spend fucking $6,000 just to get your brain scanned and get a little piece of paper printed off, and then you recommended like thousands of dollars in supplements, right? We're not trying to run programs like that, because again, you get a lot of accusations over your care, your morals, your ethics on that, which is for another conversation. And I'm just gonna say allegedly on any of that, so I don't get a lawsuit, but. No, for coaching in this kind of context where the person's getting a VNS device, yeah, you want to have what's called a phase 1 protocol, or again, it doesn't have to be phase 1. It could be tier 1 or level 1 or something like that, right? It's you want to get it clear to the client that we're not going, especially you can say this with the vagus nerve, is that in fixing your vagus nerve, we hold the potential to radically improve your life on every level imaginable, because your vagus nerve not only controls your digestion and your absorption of food, but it also controls your ability to grow muscle, to regulate your heart rate, to sleep better, to improve relationships with people you love and know. So it means that vagus nerve stimulation not only sits in a health category, it also begins to sit in a relationship category with your children, with your wife, with your husband, with your other coworkers, with friends, with people of the community. Vagus nerve stimulation can have wide-ranging impacts on a person's life. So you want to let them understand that day 1 and day 30, you're not going to put the expectation on them that, every single piece of your life is going to be solved for. You want to do ascension coaching, where the way that I do it is that for the first 3 to 4 months, the primary areas we work on are usually going to be there's 4 specific areas I have a client work on. First thing is stimulate your vagus nerve. So they're going to stimulate their vagus nerve every single day, just as the protocol is laid out. And you can edit like a Google document, a piece of paper, make a book, print it off, whatever, and include it with the VNS device that says week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. Here's where and when you're going to stimulate your vagus nerve. So having that documentation on hand is super good for specific devices. That's the first part. The second part is going to be nutritional. Everybody needs some work on their nutrition. Everything can be improved upon. Even if a client, if they say, oh, well, I know everything about this already, you might consider that client is not coachable at that level. And it doesn't mean that you need to at least review and audit what they're eating in order to make sure that they're not eating junk food or anything like that. And remove what's bad and keep what's good. So it's nutrition coaching. Then it's exercise. The exercise that we specifically have our clients do is neck strengthening. They should be strengthening their necks because the muscles that control your vagus nerve function and structure and location are controlled by muscle positions. So if your neck muscles are really weak, then you're setting yourself up for vagus nerve compression. That means that no matter how good of a diet you have, or how good your mindset is, or how good your device is, if your neck muscles are pinching your vagus nerve and your atlas bone is compressing your vagus nerve, then all bets are off. You're gonna have severely impaired vagus nerve function from that. So neck strengthening is the third, and I'd say really, really crucial aspect of working with a client. And then the fourth one is the mindset support. Mindset support means you need to reorient your mind, your thinking about systems rather than goals. And so some of the ways that we do that is we actually provide them with a kind of a daily planner system so that they have a physical way to look at their day to identify where stress is primarily coming from. Because a lot of people who procrastinate won't tell you that as clients. I've had clients who, oh my God, I'm so stressed, but they aren't telling you that they're consistently procrastinating in some area or aspect of their life, and that's generating stress for them all the time. So, and then again, it's not typical that with a device that somebody would come into it buying a device and be given advice on device and device. They wouldn't be given advice or training or resources to help them manage how stress can be produced from being stuck in a mode of urgency, which is common when you're chronically ill. So then all the device manufacturer can do, because they're not prepared to take on those types of questions or those types of concerns, or really to help you with those kinds of things, is that they say, well, just turn up the intensity of the ultrasound or turn up the intensity of the electrical vagus nerve stimulation. That's all a device manufacturer can do. Whereas I know for a fact that if you can identify, you know what? There is this like one part of my life that is causing a lot of mental stress and anguish. How could I look at that a little bit differently, like reframing it from a mindset perspective and reduce the stress that's coming from it? And so we provide, again, this is like neuro-linguistic programming, neuro-linguistic training, hypnosis, these kinds of concepts. These things work. A fact of the matter is medical hypnosis and medical language-based support works. Why leave that on the table, right? Again, there's this concept in business is you're leaving money on the table by not offering all of the things that a client needs truly to get better. And my incentive is to get people to be better. And so that's what a phase 1 program looks like. Phase 2 is oftentimes another tier of support where we look at cognitive, mental function, memory retraining, like pretty advanced stuff. We make them a more effective person, and the ability for them to stimulate their vagus nerve even deeper with a new tier of a device. So did you know that you should at least have 3 models of a device? Let's say you should have 3 models available to clients through the different tiers of their care. How many electrical devices out there right now offer that at all? No, they offer like maybe a little button that goes up and down for intensity, but they don't change anything about the intensity of their device in any meaningful way. And clients, these electrical devices are like trying to work on a million different vagus nerves at the same time. And they just do not work. So again, imagine we don't really get refunds. We don't get people saying, oh, I didn't like the device. There's always a way to make it work. These companies, these electrical companies, they're getting returns like crazy all the time because like, oh, I didn't like it. It made me feel really sick, whatever. And they have nothing that they have no leverage in that relationship. There's no lever or dial that they can press or push or turn to optimize the stimulation technology to meet that client, because they're never going to meet with you one-to-one. You're never going to get a support call from any of these companies for, if you think you're paying $199 for a little piece of plastic electrical vagus nerve stimulator, or if you're paying $60, they're not going to hop on a call with you to diagnose, wow, this was making me cyclically vomit with electrical stimulation in my ear. What do I do? They're going to say, I don't know. Don't use it. That's what they're going to say. Whereas that could be related to something else. It could be just it could be a quick protocol change. So again, look, I'm not gonna sit here and bash people who just try to go the cheapest route and get a device. But what you're paying for overall, if you're trying to get better, is a practitioner who has skill sets in these 4 areas around vagus nerve stimulation from a technology skill set perspective, nutrition coaching, which every practitioner should know nutrition. I believe every coach should also understand exercise and how that plays a role. And if you don't, learn that. Be comfortable making a recommendation for that person to go walk for 20 minutes a day, to lift weights a couple times a week, strengthen their neck. Really easy stuff to do. And then fourth would be mindset, which is how do you get them to think in terms of from a systems perspective rather than a goal-based perspective. One thing that always triggers a red flag for me is when I listen to coaches and they ask me, they're trying to get my business. I get a lot of high ticket coaches who want me as their client. And I love being coached as well. So, certainly I'm coached myself, but, is anytime I get a red flag in my brain, the moment that they say, all right, man, so let's sit down. Tell me about your goals. I want to know about your goals for your business. And I go, I don't have any goals. I'm a systems person. So that means I show up to help clients. If I can help the clients so substantially that they became raving fans and they can't help but tell everybody and anyone they know about how life-changing this was for them, that is going to create this nice upward spiral and circle that's going to grow the Facebook group to 24,000 plus members, which it has. And then that's going to get people to schedule 10-minute game plan calls that are free consultations. And we'll talk more about, again, what does that process look like? How do you offer consultations to potential clients that may want to explore working with you? We'll talk about that tomorrow, is identifying the process of communication with a potential client, or exploring this and selling this to existing clients and saying, hey, I just want to let you know we have this new option, which is vagus nerve stimulation. I really want to tell you about it. How can you comfortably and effectively communicate the benefits of VNS to existing clients? Because if you're a practitioner and you already have clients right now, they're going to be your first potential clients. Or you want to branch out and up a little bit. You want to go, okay, I've been doing this one type of narrow coaching for a long time, energy work. What if I could augment that with vagus nerve stimulation and energy work and nutrition coaching and learn those as skill sets? Now, vagus nerve stimulation coaching is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a skill-building engine that makes you extremely effective in the care of another human being. And it's awesome. And so of course I want you to do it right. So naturally, that's where we're going to be looking at more tomorrow, is how to consider that persuasion into a vagus nerve coaching program, not just we're not looking at how to just resell devices. You should not be a unpaid spokesperson or an unpaid salesperson for things like a True Vega or anything like that, because you'll never make any good money with that. And I don't believe you're actually really going to help people that substantially by being a reseller of these expensive devices. I think that internally it should be something that you provide to your clients yourself. That's the magic that we're talking about here. But of course, all things are options. It's very flexible in terms of what we're talking about. But yeah, so other than that, super grateful to have you all here. Make sure you tune in again tomorrow. Replay will, of course, be available if you missed any of this call today. And if you missed day one, I highly recommend that you go back and watch day one as well. But yeah, we'll be live again on Facebook and YouTube tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, every single day of the week, even Saturdays and Sundays. But for the purpose of this video campaign, we're talking about specifically practitioner training. How do you train and certify a coach in the field of vagus nerve stimulation services to their patients? That's the subject of all of these videos this week, up until Friday, including and up to Friday of this week. So don't miss any of the days. If you are a practitioner and you want to up your game and just take one or two of the things that I'm telling you on any of these days, and you're going to see some benefits. This is the stuff, this is tried and true and tested and market ready. These are timeless and eternal concepts for stimulating your vagus nerve. So it's pretty cool. Awesome. Good to see you, Rose, over on the YouTubes. Awesome. So that's gonna wrap it up for us today over on the YouTube. If you liked the video, remember you can like, comment, and subscribe to us on the YouTube channel to get notifications of when we're going live there. Oftentimes the YouTube channel will give you some, replayability and more of a, library containing of the videos. So that can be helpful to keep that. But other than that, much love to you guys on YouTube, and I'll end the stream here. Thank you. And then back on Facebook,